highlight here. This is my Bonemeld Energy Blade Ball Lightning Inquisitor. It's a great all-rounder build for most mapping content and Ubers. The concept is to make use of Bonemeld's percent increased defenses per summoned minion, along with the Katarina Bloodline's Umbral Army node, which gives percent increased defenses per Spectre, in order to give a ton of energy shield to an Energy Blade Inquisitor. I have a total of 188% increased global defenses from 7 Spectres, a Stone Golem, and 20 total minions, which is honestly pretty low for a Bone Meld build. This shell also allows us to make use of a ton of Spectre and Animate Guardian buffs. For example, since Energy Blade is lightning damage, and the Perfect Spirit of Fortune gives us lucky lightning damage, we can combine it with the new Roiling Tempest Keystone that increases our maximum flat lightning for around 60% more damage from a single Spectre. This is the total amount of buffs we get from our minions. The amount of investment we have into minions does lower our total ES compared to other Energy Blade builds, but the buffs more than make up for it in terms of damage. Bitterbind Point completes her Spectre Shell, giving +1 max Spectres, increased Spectre life, and a ton of spell crit. Combined with Overloaded Intensity, which gives a lot of base crit and crit multi, it already fully solves our crit investment. By using the Apex and Nadir mode jewels together, they cancel out their intensity changes, but the loss still contributes to adding to our overloaded intensity stacks. To automate our minion summons, I am using Kitava's Thirst, which requires our main skill to cost at least 100 mana. We can also automate Pactive Baitat here, which gives a decent bit of damage, but more importantly, it fires our projectiles in a circle. And for projectile spells, this is not really a downside, and makes our clear a lot comfier by making it so we don't really have to aim anywhere. Skeletons also allow us to use the recover 5% of minion life on minion death mastery, which gives a ton of recovery for our other minions. We can make use of almost any spell we want, but some of the ES and cast speed nodes give mana cost efficiency, which makes it harder for a lot of spells to reach this 100 mana threshold. Here are some of the spells that can comfortably reach 100 mana on my setup. I found Ball Lightning to be the comfiest option due to having a ton of hits for instant leech and ES gain on hit, and removing the need to aim anywhere due to Pack of Baitat. It's only around 6.7k ES, which is pretty low for a CI build, but we have 85 max res, 65 spell block, and very high recovery due to ES on hit and instant leech. It's not the fastest mapper, but it can face tank a little bit, even with fairly low max hit. I've done all Ubers, feared, fairly juiced maps, and did a lot better than my expectations for the build. The build defining items are Bonemeld, Kitava's Thirst, and Bitterbind Point, which I've explained in detail earlier. We have a high ES chest, which we are buffing using the Armor and ES Mastery for double the value, which works because Kitava's Thirst is also an Armor ES item. For our gloves, we have a +2 to level of socketed minion gems, which is a Dove mod, which allows us to reach a level 25 breakpoint for +1 Spectres when combined with the +2 from Bone Meld. We also have another +1 from Congregation Support. I've put my AG setup here for a 2-link because I don't really have the space anywhere for a 4-link setup. For our AG, we have a Mask of the Stitch Demon and Doppelganger for our recovery, and then the usual Kingmaker for Fortify, Crit Multi, and Culling Strike, and Legacy of Fury for Scorch. One issue with this build is that we have a ton of negative chaos res, which is being applied to our minions through Bone Meld. It's not a problem for us since we're CI, but it does get applied to our minions, so they have like anywhere between 0 to -50 chaos res. Still, I haven't noticed my AG die that much in like Fizz's extra chaos mods or like chaos altars, but it's just something to keep in mind when you're doing that kind of content. In our Kitava's third setup, we have a summon skeletons, a pact of Baitat, and 2 golems. I did not end up using summon raging spirit here because you only get like 7 out of the 20 max SRS minions, and I ended up using it summon flame golem combined with stone golem because flame golem gives us some AoE, which combined with the AoE from greater spell echo allows us to reach AoE breakpoints for ball lightning, which allows us to get more overlaps for uh, around 10 to 15% more damage combined with the buff effect from Flame Golem. And on our rings, I just get as much cast speed as I can, and crit multi, and curse on hit. This crafted life modifier, we don't really care about it. I just wanted to get as much flat mana regen as I could. And then I have a Mageblood to solve our speed and defenses. I find that the build's max hit is way too low without the plus 10 max res from these flasks, so I really have to use them. And then I have a Stormblood here, so our damage can also apply chill and freeze. And we are reaching the max chill for even Uber bosses, so this is like pretty good defensive layer as well. So yeah. For our passive tree, we have a minion instability impossible escape, which allows us to get a ton of high value nodes without needing to pass towards them. The saved passive points can lead us towards some extra damage, such as this wheel right here. And then the rest is just getting as much ES and mana regen and minion life as well. You have a +1 Spectres from Death Attunement. And I'm also getting some rune grafts, such as Rune Graft of the Fortress, and then Rune Graft of the Warps, just to remove the afflictions from Pact of Bedat faster. For my Watcher's Eye, I went for a fully defensive one. We have ES on hit for Discipline, PDR, and then chance to recover mana when you use a skill, which I'm combining with another 10%, so total of 25. This helps our mana sustain a lot because we do have a burst of mana when Kitava's Thirst procs, so this helps to alleviate that mana cost. And then I have a Forbidden Flame Flesh setup for Arcane Blessing. This gives us around Arcane Surge grants you 20% spell damage, and this is increased by like stuff like Arcane Surge effect, such as here. And then uh, alternatively, you could get Bastion of Hope from Guardian, which would give you an additional 25 block. It gives you to like 50, 75 block, which is like makes you a lot tankier. I would probably use that, but I really like the extra damage from this, so it really depends. For our Ascendancy nodes, we have Instruments of Virtue for Battle Mage, which is core to the Energy Blade playstyle, and then Umbral Army is the core of our minion setup. And then for the last two, you can like pick some whatever. Since we're already crit capped, we don't need these two nodes here, so I think the only choices here is like Sanctuary and then either Pious Path, but this only really saves you a passive point for like Zealot Oath, so I'm not taking that. I just ended up taking this, so like 10% extra damage, but it's not really like the best node. But it does help our LMX hit a little bit more, so that's great as well. Regarding other spells, my favorites are Stormcall and Ice Spear Splitting due to their great clear and still has great single target potential. Regular Ice Spear and Hidden Frost probably have the best single target, and the clear can still be decent if you invest into more projectiles. While Lightning and the Orbiting variant are roughly equal in terms of damage. Orbiting is slightly more single target, but the regular version has similar damage for way better clear, even with slower projectile support. The build is honestly a bit too squishy for my taste, but I really like how all the pieces fit together to make a one button build, and since it's Energy Blade, it's a very flexible shell that can be rearranged to make use of almost any spell we want. I hope you found the build interesting, and thank you for watching.